Hello, Echo here. I might have gone a teensy bit overboard with planning next year's school year as far as gathering resources, but this is kind of the way that I like to do it. I like to pick what we're doing and then grab as many resources as I can find that go with it. And if we get them all, we do, and if we don't, we don't, and it's okay. But I like having them available and out and ready to go. So some of these things are resources that will be on the shelf, able to grab. Some of them are chapter books that we're going to be reading through to do living history and living science and learning. And then some of these are curriculums. So I'll give you an overview of what we've decided to do for next year, some flip throughs of things, just overview flip throughs, not any deep dives this time. But let me get a few minutes here for me to organize it by subject first. Time for a real page turner. Okay, so I got these way more organized, and I will give you a rundown of kind of the overview of what we're doing, and then I'll show you through individual things that are happening. So I've got a son that's turning 12, I've got a 10.5 and an 8.5. And this next school year, we're definitely doing modern history. So 1900 to 2000 is the section that I'm mostly aiming for. And so we've got a few different curriculums that we're going to be using, as well as lots of living books for that. So I've been just pulling any resources. Our art will also try to connect with that. So we'll look at artists that were alive during that time, look at their art, and then copying whatever art they have through different mediums like painting and clay and, you know, whatever else we've got. And then for science, I actually haven't decided yet. We might do Berean Builders, we might do Science Shepherd. I've got a few different curriculums that are here, and so I might just wait and see at the end of summer like which one is standing out to me, or maybe we'll go with something else. I'm not sure, I haven't decided on that yet. And then for Bible, we read the Bible, and also we're doing Bible verse memory. For art, did I already say art? Yes, art we're doing during that time period, okay. And then for language arts, my youngest son loves to read and loves workbooks, so we're going to try learning language arts through literature with him, and he is very excited about that. And then all of them will be doing the living verse book, which is language arts through poetry, which I'm excited for that because I want more poetry. And then we're going to be doing spelling you see, because we did that last year and really liked it, and we're going to continue it into this year. For math, we're sticking with Math Mammoth. And then for geography, it will be Africa this year. And last year we were doing Taking Africa for Jesus and Legends and Leagues South. And so we will continue those. We got about halfway through last year. And so this year we'll finish those out. So a little bit of history for Africa too, but mostly history is going to be 1900 to 2000 this year. So let me show you inside the different resources, inside the different curriculums, and give you a rundown of that. We're continuing on with our study of Africa, so we will be going through Legends and Leagues South. This is a geography curriculum, and so they'll be doing mapping skills in that, and they're also learning some of the history of Africa in there. And then we're also going to continue Taking Africa for Jesus, which somebody pointed out on a previous video that feels like a really yucky title. But it does go through the history of Africa, it goes through geography of Africa, it does talk about other religions, and so maybe not as ominous as the title sounds. And then we have this game that we've played a few times this past year, which is 10 Days in Africa, and we really enjoyed playing that. I thought that was a good, useful resource for learning Africa as far as the geography of the countries goes. Then this is a great book, Destination Africa, that we will continue to use as a resource. And then Curious Kids Press has a lot of guides to different countries, and we've enjoyed these for a lot of our geography studies. And the Big Book of, and there's several different countries that are covered with this series as well. So we have more of those to work through this year as we continue studying Africa. Also to include with our African study, we're going to be doing Beautiful Feet. And this is Around the World with Picture Books, Part 1. I've really liked this curriculum. I've liked including it in our geography studies. And so I will be doing that. And I did do a flip through of this curriculum as well. So you can see a full flip through if you want to. I will link any other full flip throughs. I'll link it down in the description box so you can check them out if there's something that you want to see more in depth. For math, we're continuing on with Math Mammoth. We've really enjoyed Math Mammoth. I've done a few videos on their workbooks. She teaches really strong number sense. It's very thorough. It's considered a mastery-based mathematics. And so each chapter has its own subject that you're working on. But she does integrate stuff. So like if they're learning about multiplication or something, then that will translate into what they're doing with measuring. And then it will translate into what they're doing in their word problems and all the way across. And then at the end of every chapter, there is a mixed review of all the stuff that they've learned for the year. So even though it's mastery, I don't feel like it's so mastery. Like I know some will just stick with one topic for the entire year. It's not that type of mastery. It does teach all the different topics. It just breaks them up into chapters throughout the year. But there is review mixed in. So I feel like it's just such a solid math program. So we're gonna stick with that. Math. As I mentioned before, my 8.5-year-old really loves reading and workbooks. And so he was super excited to try learning language arts through literature. I started him on the yellow level because I believe this is the one that starts cursive. So I'm looking forward to him learning that this year. And then it also came with reader books that go along with it. All my kids will be continuing on with spelling UC, which has worked great, and some of my kids have dyslexia, so that's been good to see that that's worked well for them. They'll all be doing living verse, language arts in poetry, and I did do another video on this, so if you want a deep dive of that book, you can look that one up. And then last year, I started my oldest with Editor-in-Chief, Beginning 1, and really enjoyed that, and so he's going to continue on with Beginning 2 this year. This is just really straightforward grammar practice, and so it'll just have one concept and then they're correcting just a paragraph or a few sentences that has that one problem in it, and they'll check off, like, so let's say that the first thing they're learning about for that chapter is verbs, so then it will have a bunch of examples of the verbs, and then inside each of the paragraphs it'll tell you like 3 verbs in here are wrong, and so they have to circle and correct and then check it off. So I've really liked that as well. So also for language arts, they do read every day for 15 minutes, pretty much whatever book they want. Sometimes I'll encourage them to read a certain book. And then for this year, I got them these reading journals. So it's for the love of books. And this is where they can keep track of the books that they're reading for the year. Because usually I keep track of it on a list, but I was like, oh, maybe this year would be a good time for them to start keeping track. We'll see how it goes. And then it also gives them a spot to put book reviews. And so I like that too, the idea of them just being able to think for a minute. And I like the way that these book reviews were set up. It felt like interesting information. Some of them feel like, I don't know, the questions that are asked in some of the books I didn't care for as much. But this one, I really liked how it was set up. Then I also have this book called Portraits of Integrity, A Family Treasury. And this book was actually recommended by Rachel from Reclaiming Wonder. She's another YouTube mama who does homeschool content. And I thought this looked really good and would be something that we could work through time. Nothing that I'm going to be finishing in a year, but just something to work through. And then for art, I have History of Art. This is by Veritas Press, and this was really good. We did some of this last year. It comes with these cards as well that talk about different time periods, and it gives them things to look at in the art. It's simple and real short, which I appreciate. So we'll continue on with that, but we'll skip ahead to the modern section so it fits in with our history, as well as and the stuff they left behind. This is by Simply Charlotte Mason, and these are some more art cards that we're going to include this year in our studies. Okay, so on to history. Obviously, I have a lot of resources for this. We love living history. So I do love Truth Quest History. This is kind of like a book list, but there's more because she gives overviews of each section. So you can just read the overview and that's plenty, but then if you want to do more living deep dives into it, then the book list follows. So I really love this resource. And there is someone who made like binder pages to go along with it. So I do want to get that as well, which is through a separate person, but I'm going to look those up to go along with it because I think that is how I'm going to track all of the history that we do. I think I'll have them make binder pages, again, not for everything that we study, but for most things that we study, where they can draw or write or make a pop-up thing or whatever they want to do that's creative that helps them to remember what they had learned. So we'll use that resource. I also got a couple of the master books for modern. So I got America's Story 3, which is Modern in America, as well as the World's Story 3. And so my plan is not necessarily to read all of both of these books, but to use them as a resource. Perhaps there are some subjects that I don't have as much living books to cover, and so then maybe that would be the chapters that I would read in here. So we'll just see as we go how that works out. And then I got these hands-on kits, which I got one of these for Titanic too, which I thought was really cool. It has replica tickets and stubs and maps and just different things in them. So I got one for Beatlemania and then one for World War I. And so those should be interesting and just something that I can pull out that'll be good for them to look at. And now the living books. I think I'm just going to show you a drop down of the living books that I have. When I look for living books, I look for ones where it's written in a way that just draws you into the story. It makes it real for you. Sometimes it's based on real life people who lived, and other times it's historical fiction where it's based on a made-up character that's alive during a certain period of time. Okay, so when I go into a bookstore or at the thrift store and I'm looking through books, how do I quickly tell if it's a living book or not? Because sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. You know, we've got this one, Fighting for the Forest. Okay, is this a living book? It's clearly historical. Let's see. When I open it up and read, it says stuff like, mountain boys, for example, recognize the sounds of screech owls and bobcats in the night. Okay, that's very factual. Let's see. Could anything be done? Some people believed only Mother Nature could make changes in the environment. Again, sounding like more statement sentences. And parks? Well, parks played a different kind of role. Okay, so I'm hearing more statement sentences when I just quickly flip through. Now, what about this one? Barnstormers. Okay, let's see what happens when I flip through this. I thought I told you to get out of here, said Redcap. Ooh, there's like a quotation, but there could be quotations in either one. All right, said Mike, we will look over your albatross. It was some time before Carol came back. Rick was not at the hangar, she said. We can't wait for him. So here I'm seeing dialogue happening. Dialogue for me means more of a living story, a living book. Let's test this one. This is Women of Our Time, Juliette Gordon Low, America's first Girl Scout. From the moment she got to school in Virginia, Daisy was homesick. Her greatest loves were family and fun. So there we've got some emotion, what she's feeling. Willie always left her at home when he went hunting. Now he began taking long trips without her, too. See, it's saying it from her perspective. It's about what she's thinking, what she's feeling, so that feels more like a living book. So that's the way that I differentiate. So I read some things to them that are not as much a living book, and then some things that are living books. And I usually try to break it up. So if we've read something that's a living book, then the next one that I read might be more of like a factual story, something that's just like telling them what happened in a certain time. But then after we've done that, then I'll go back and read something that's more of a living book, something that's more first person based or telling the story as if you're living through it. I hope that makes sense and is helpful. We do like the I Survive series. Now be careful with these because some of them do have a lot of heavy content for younger kids. So check them out before you just hand them over. We also like the Real Kids, Real Places. What would this? They're the ones by Carol Marsh anyway. We do like these mystery books. They're well written. And then I do have a bunch from this American Adventure series, which my mom read to me when I was a kid. So I'm nostalgic about it too. But they were really good back then from what I remember, and so I'm excited to read through some of these with my kids this year. I also look for other resources, like we've got Great Battles for Boys, and again, I'm going to listen with my kids just to make sure that the content isn't too heavy for them. Also things like Adventures in Odyssey, they do have Bible stories, and they've got history stories, as well as just like day-to-day character or for fun stories. And movies or DVDs, things on missionaries or things on flight or on YouTube too. Same thing, looking up different videos. I love the immersive tour videos that people do nowadays, where it's like you can go to some other place and they've got their speakers on both sides, and so it feels like you're the one walking through these different tourist attractions or different streets, and so that really brings it to life. So I also add those in as far as our geography and history is concerned. And last but not least, I have a whole stack of books that are non-fiction, maybe biographies or how something was built, or something from the time period that we're studying. And like I said, all of this doesn't really include science because I'm not 100% sure what direction we're taking with that. So once I figure out that direction, I will also be looking for interesting science books, living books, anything that might go along with that as well. Okay, and then also I try to pull in the Bible a little bit here with our time period. So I'll have different missionary stories from the same time period that we're studying. And then I also found these memory verse cards, and so I've already started this summer doing memory verses with my sons, and so we'll continue that through the fall. And then recently I found this daily checklist that we're going to start with them. I like how this is broken up with daily and weekly tasks, because not everything is every day and not everything is just once a week, and so we'll be trying this out and seeing how this works starting now. And that way we get to test it before we get into the school year. But I do feel like checklists really help, especially with things that they can do independently. So, whether they're real little and it's something like, eat breakfast or, make your bed or whatever. Or if they're older and it's something like do your math and do your reading. And so depending on where they're at. But I think it does help them. It helps so that I'm not constantly saying every single little step of the way what they have to do. So playing around with the checklist has helped us. And then one thing that we did with checklists before is I would implement a time. So saying like all these things need to be done by noon. And anything that's not done by noon, then you're going to have extra of that thing. So if you don't finish your math by noon, then you have an extra page. Or if you don't finish vacuuming this room by noon, then you're going to have to vacuum this other little section of the house. So things like that felt like a natural consequence. And of course, when spring came around, we kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit. The weather gets better and everybody's kind of all over the place and getting a little feral. But that has helped me in the past for sure. So I'll be implementing that again, either now or come fall, to have a time, deadline on it so that we're not up until midnight still talking about, okay, well, you should have done this and this and this today. So hopefully that helps them with time management skills as well. I also forgot Spanish, so we've been working through foreign languages for kids by kids. There are some workbooks, there are some games that go along with it, as well as cards. There are DVDs where they're actually just speaking the language, so you're learning it like really as if you were growing up in it, where people are just pointing or acting things out, and that's how you're learning the language. So I really like the way it's set up, and we've been doing it for a couple years, not super aggressively, but just on the side along with the rest of the stuff we've been learning. So we will continue along with that. Number 2. And Young Peacemakers. I have really liked this, and we've worked through some of this book, and it's been good because my kids fight like all kids, so I've heard. And it's got a Bible verse, it's got examples of being a peacemaker, and then it's got like ways to think about it, and so I've really enjoyed that. So we'll continue on with that curriculum as well, just as we go. Well, I hope this was a helpful look inside a lot of resources and curriculum, and even though it's not my final final on everything for the year, I still wanted to share with you because I know now's the time when it's like you're thinking about stuff, you're buying stuff, it's interesting to look at stuff. I'm enjoying looking at what other people are doing and picking out for their families as well. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will give you some update videos as we go, especially if we love things. I do like to give more of an in-depth look on the good things that I find. Remember that real life is messy and beautiful, and better with books. Next school year, I've got a... Oh, as usual, I might have gone a teensy bit overboard. Timber, shh. Oh, shh. By type, and then I'll give you a run through. Boy, you dogs are just all over the place, aren't you? Please stop. Healthy. Let's keep my tea with me. Another shot. And then for writing, well, I'll start a new video for that, I guess. I guess that's it for language arts for now. We'll see. So every day they read 15 minutes, or they're supposed to, you know. So most every day they read 15 minutes. So also included, oh, it's a little crooked. And so my plan is not necessarily to read live. And these have living DVDs.